Wow, it's a hot one. Well, it looks like it's going to be a hot one out there anyway. Hi there, my name's Mark Smith. I am Group Managing Director of People2People in Australia and Frog Recruitment in New Zealand. And it's Friday afternoon, which means that we are live here on Facebook and on YouTube, and now, for the last couple of weeks anyway, on LinkedIn. So today, well, it looks like it's a hot day out there, but it's actually going to be a scorcher this weekend throughout Australia, or at least on the East Coast. And there you go. There's a picture from Weather Zone, which you can see that dark purple. That's going to be 40 odd degrees. And I think we've got a tweet here as well from Ben from Weather Zone, Ben Domicino. And hopefully, Olivia, it'd be great actually if you could share Ben's Twitter, because he's got a whole bunch of stuff about this. But check this out. Warriner in New South Wales has the unfortunate forecast of 3 consecutive 45-degree days between Sunday and Tuesday, bookended by 42 degrees on Saturday and Wednesday. So that's records, breaking all records back to 1911. And it's never registered 3 45-degree days in a row at this time of year. So it's going to be an absolute scorcher. But that's not what we're here for today. We're actually here to talk about the employment and jobs market. And today we'll be covering off our regular numbers section. And today, I should say, we're specifically looking at the gender pay gap, and we're also going to take a look at some participation rates, because I think David from last week asked for that specifically. And then we're going to catch up with James Dalton from our Sydney accounting team, who's got a couple of fabulous opportunities to talk to us about. And then we'll be talking to Manda, who's our company secretary and a founder of People2People. She's got some comments on the gender pay gap. And finally, we'll cross the ditch over to New Zealand to Remy, our marketing manager. Who's going to update us on a couple of fabulous webinars that we've got coming up in the next couple of weeks as well. So let's get into it, and let's start then with our numbers section. So the numbers this week. Well, what we're going to cover off firstly is the participation rate. Now, David, who is somebody who has commented on the broadcast several times, and I should say that if you do have any comments, we can see them live. So please put them down the bottom, and then we can follow through and answer your questions in real time. But David asked last week to examine the participation rate, because it has had an effect on unemployment over the last little while, and particularly during the pandemic. So here is a time series of the participation rate for both men and women in Australia from 2010 to the present day. The top dark line is the participation rate for men in the Australian workforce. And the peak there is in, I think, November 2010, which is interesting in itself, at 72.7%. The low point is 68% in the middle of the pandemic. And right now, it's at 70.8%. So we've still got a little way to go. If we can pop it back up there again, Olivia, because I just want to point out the difference for women in the workforce. So you can see that the peak for women in the workforce was actually just pre-pandemic, which was at 61.3%. So a full 10% less than men, and that was in January of 2020. Then the decline, the low point in the middle of the pandemic, at 57.7%, and then now is 61%, which is the same as it was in July of 2019. So there's been a lot of talk about participation rates in the general media out there about and who has suffered the most during the pandemic. And I think those participation rates certainly tell a different story to some of the comments that have been coming out from the pundits as such. Now let's talk about the gender pay gap, because there was a media release during the week regarding the gender pay gap, and it's not good news, to be honest. If you're a woman in the Australian workforce, you are still on average $25,000, earning $25,000 a year less than your male counterpart. And I've got a couple of graphs here to show you. The first one was a table, really. The first one is the gender pay gap by occupation. And the dark orange are for management positions. And you can see that key management personnel is at 23.4%, or $89,000 a year. in terms of the gender pay gap, but it has gotten better. It's 1% better than it was last year. And then other executives, 20%, senior managers, 16.7%. So it's really still quite a profound difference. Clerical and administration roles, which are some of the positions that we recruit here at People to People, 7.7%, and the lowest gender pay gap. And the highest is technical and trades, 25.4%. Professionals, which is another area that we concentrate on, 18.3%. But that's in terms of occupation. What about in terms of industry? And we've got a table here also in terms of the industry. And you can see that and it's in numerical order. And at the top, I found this quite surprising. It's finance and insurance services has the biggest gender pay gap, 21.2%. The lowest is public administration and safety, wholesale trade, accommodation. You can see down the bottom there, 6.3, 5.4, etc. So quite a remarkable scenario. And when you're talking about the fact that we are middle of a pandemic, but it is the 21st century, it is 2020, and yet we are still in a situation where we have a profound gender pay gap, although there has been some improvement over the last few years. So I hope you found that interesting. We'll actually talk to Amanda Milling, one of the founders of People to People, later during the broadcast, just with a couple of comments and observations about those numbers. But now let's move on, and we'll have a quick chat to James Dalton from our Sydney accounting team, who's got a couple of opportunities. Before we do that, though, we've got a video that I want to show you, which is an opportunity from Steph Poulos, whilst I take a seat.
Do you like fast cars? Would you like to combine your passion for cars and skills in accounting and work with an instantly recognized global brand? With a reputation for high-end luxury performance products, this organization prides themselves on their traditional roots and dynamic culture. To be successful, you will enjoy a hands-on role where you can work with a close-knit team supporting the financial controller. You will also take ownership of the monthly, quarterly, and yearly financial report, as well as be the go-to person for any system-related queries. Furthermore, you will process reconciliations, assist with budgets, forecast, and work as a backup for accounts payable and receivable. CA or CPA qualified, you will be near completion. You'll have proven experience as an accountant or a senior accountant. To be successful, you must have a passion for the automotive industry. Without this, it will be extremely difficult to progress. In return, you'll be able to work with an organisation that provides a clear progression path, travel opportunities, and the ability to test run the luxury cars. If this sounds like something you're interested in or would like to hear more about the role in the business, my number is 02 8270 9763. Thank you.
Rightio. Luxury cars, getting to drive the luxury cars. I'm being told in the past, James, that I drive like a granddad, so probably not the right opportunity for me.
Not the one for you, Mark, no. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that it will be the right match for. Perfect.
And Olivia, if you could pop some details in there, well, we'll make sure that they're there for everybody if you are interested in that particular position. But you, James, you've got a couple of opportunities you'd like to talk to us about.
Yeah, that's right. The market's feeling really positive, Mark. So there are clients who are really looking to make appointments before the Christmas break. And also another positive part is that candidates are now prepared to move, whereas in the last 4 or 5 months, there's been a lot more hesitancy out there. So there's good things happening, and I think we're very confident this is going to lead to a strong early 2021 if we're having such a busy back end of this year.
It's discernible, isn't it? I've been chatting to a couple of people, clients, about the fact that in the last 3 weeks, there's been a discernible shift in confidence from both candidates and clients. Hopefully, touch wood, it's good for 21.
Yeah, I agree.
I think James is having a few internet connections there, so just bear with us a second there whilst we get James back online.
so I'll get stuck in.
Yeah, we seem to have a little bit of a problem there with James. We'll just to see how we go. Sorry, apologies there. First time since we've been doing these broadcasts that we've got an issue.
Back in.
He's back. Welcome back, James.
Yeah, round two. Okay.
Jump into it. Jump into those jobs.
Yeah, so the first one is a head of finance role with a commercial real estate investment business. So they invest in premium A-grade buildings around Australia. So, and they're also looking at investing in international markets. The UK, New Zealand and Europe are markets that they are assessing for the post-COVID world. So the critical requirements for this role is commercial real estate experience, finance leadership experience in that sector, as well as Cantonese and Mandarin language skills. It's very important this person is fluent in either of those languages to be able to communicate with the ownership who are based overseas. So that's that does make it harder, I appreciate, for candidates out there.
Yeah, it's we're really struggling here with your internet connection, I think, James. So we might just leave it there with James. Hopefully, we'll get him back and we'll bring him back because he's got another job. So just to summarise that position, head of finance role. It's Cantonese speaking in the property sector. If you're interested, the details are in the comments there. So make sure you grab a hold of that. But now let's move on and let's have a quick chat to Manda, one of the founders of People2People. And Manda, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's been a while. So, well, actually, it hasn't been a while. It's been a few weeks, hasn't it, since we last?
Yes, it has. I think pop up a little bit more regularly than probably a lot of people would like at the moment.
So this gender pay gap. I know women in the workforce is an issue that's close to your heart. So what did you draw from the numbers that were released?
It's interesting. This data's been collected from 2013, and the agency that collects it is the Workplace Gender Equality Agency, the WGEA, here in Australia. And they were thinking that there's a little bit of employer fatigue out there as well. But the main takeouts, just to summarise, look, this report was as a result of just under 5,000 employers that you mentioned earlier that represent 4 million employees Australia-wide. Now, this data was collected from 1st of April 2019 to 31 March this year. So obviously, in these last 6 months, even since this data was collected, things have just gone upside down, as we all know. But it's narrowed slightly by 0.7%. So the pay gap's 20.1% currently, but men still earn more than women in every industry and occupation. And I guess what we need to recognise, and this Gender Equality Agency recognise as well, is that these are all different occupations and that women still participate most prominently in the part-time work sector, as we know. So the employers are now, what is good news though, there's 50% more offering paid parental leave that's in addition to the government statutory requirements. However, that is dependent upon the size of organisation that you work in, but it is becoming considerably more commonplace. And that is linked to, obviously, with women still being the primary caregivers for kids, children, of getting them back in the workplace, being supported in the workplace. Also, even before COVID, the pandemic hit, they believed that Australian employers were becoming a little complacent about gender equality. And so even if they've subscribed to a report, what they tend to find is that that if they do have a gender imbalance in their workplace, very few do anything about it as well. Now, to be fair, we all know the last 6 months has just been keeping our heads above water, and not to downplay this, but obviously it's been concentrating in different areas as well. But as I said, bit of fatigue out there. But this report also excludes CEOs, with just 10 of Australia's top 200 listed companies having a female chief executive. So it does exclude at that level. So that's sort of it in a nutshell, just the analysis side.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And what about? I can just see that. Actually, that's my father who's commented on there and says, "Where's the tie?" So yeah, well, it's because I'm off to the cricket this afternoon, Dad. It feels like I'm on a Zoom meeting with my family. It's just not good enough, Amanda, is it?
No, well, thank you. I've got my jacket, Bruce. So someone is maintaining standards in this organisation. Thank you for that.
Exactly.
The female.
Now, what about an?
Yes, international. Yes. Well, interestingly, New Zealand's pay gap. They did a report in September, and theirs is 17.7%. So they're below us. So their gap is smaller. Interestingly, as well, Germany has just announced a quota system for women on boards, on selected listed, the equivalent listed companies in Germany, a quota system. Now, interestingly, Libby Lyons, who's the director of the WGEA here in Australia, said she's still not in favour of quotas. They have to have one female board member by a certain period of time. So we're not at that stage yet. And it was interesting that the Ms. Lyons, the director there, is at this point not in favour of the quota system on boards.
Yeah, it's so gender pay gap. I mean, it's stubborn. It's a statistic that's not moving. I mean, in my lifetime, it hasn't. Working life anyway, at least, it hasn't actually improved substantially in that time. I'm sure you've seen the same. Excellent, good. All right, well, great to see you again, Amanda. Thanks for joining us again. What we're going to do now is that we're going to cross across the Tasman. We're going to go over the ditch, and we're going to have a chat to Remy, who's the people-to-people marketing manager, because he's got a couple of events coming up. Now, Remy, I'm not in a tie. What the bloody hell are you wearing there? Like, what's going on there?
Well, when Amanda said she was bringing up the standards, I was like, oh, God, don't show me, Mark. Decide my trailer.
But there's a couple of events coming up you'd like to share with us, yeah?
Yeah, so the first one will be next week, and it's on Wednesday, and it's part of our leadership series, and it's Where to for the labor market in 2021. So as I said, Wednesday, 2 p.m. Sydney time, and the speaker will be Callum Pickering, who is an economist at Indeed Australia, and among the different topics he's gonna talk about, we will have the current state of Australia and New Zealand regarding the labor market, the handling of the COVID crisis, some of the challenges due to border closures and restrictions, and as part of all our webinars, we have an interactive Q&A session at the very end. Regarding the second one, it will be more job seeker focused, and it's the name of this webinar is Where to for career seekers in 2021. So it won't be next week, but the week after on Thursday, so the 10th of December, 2 p.m. Sydney time again. And we'll have 6 people, so 6 of our people-to-people and frog recruitment employees across Australia and New Zealand talking about the job market, so either in Australia or in New Zealand, how to approach your job search in 2021, the impact of flexible working, and some regional market updates. And as I said, an interactive Q&A at the very end, just to make sure we are covering all angles.
Yeah, and I think that there's a couple of things there. The job seeker one, we also giving away our salary survey. There's a product that we do restrict access to for our clients throughout the year. So I think this year that we're providing the free for anybody who comes along to the webinar, they'll get a copy of that as well.
Yeah, so this year we run 3 surveys throughout the year, and to try to understand both our clients and our career seeker, and then what was happening in their world. And from those surveys, we created this P2P, market report, which is 60 pages long, and which includes regional market updates, but also salaries, which could be a very interesting document for all job seekers, I'm sure.
So if you're a job seeker and you want to get a hold of that salary survey and with all that other information in there as well, register for the webinar the week after next. And I think there's the details are already there in the comments, which is fabulous. And for next week, we've got that Callum Pickering. I know I'm a bit of a fanboy for Callum Pickering, and I know I share his tweets all over this broadcast, or I have done for the last 6 months. So I'm quite delighted to have him as a guest in that leadership series to talk about what's going on. Fabulous, rightio. Well, thanks, Remy, for joining us today. Maybe you can go back and be a little bit even more relaxed than you are at the moment. All right, well, that's it. We might try. Let's see if we can get James on, because we've still got a couple of minutes. James, are you there? And then we can see if. Let's try one more time, because we got one more job to talk about.
I need to squeeze it in very quickly. So the next role is a financial controller role with a luxury retail brand. So this is the finance lead role within this business. They have stores all around Australia, and they're family owned and have got a really good reputation in the market. So they're able to offer 150 to 170 plus super, and it's based in the CBD. So that's a role where the business are looking to square this one away before Christmas.
Fantastic. Now, and we'll make sure that the details of that particular position are also in the comments there. And if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, James, to get more details.
Yeah, the best is on. Yeah, the number is 02 8270 9702, or in terms of registering their interest, to click and apply through our website.
No worries. Fantastic. Rightio. Thanks, James. Sorry about all the technical drama. So that's it for today. I thought I'd leave everybody with an image because I am dressed like this. Thanks, Dad. Because I am off to the cricket this afternoon, and it's just fabulous to have the opportunity to go to the cricket. I think the capacity is just 50%. Day-night match for India versus Australia, and I'm hoping to see at least some of the Swami Army, and I think we've got an image. There they are. I know last time I was there, they were very, very vocal, and hopefully I'll get to see them as well as some fabulous cricket this afternoon. Rightio, thanks everybody. Only a couple more Fridays before the end of the year, but we'll be back here. I won't be, but People to People will be back with Kath Kennedy, the New South Wales Director, with Facebook Live with an employment market update, 12:30 Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time next week. We'll see you then.